If you want to support the channel, be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Thank you. What's up, everybody? Tricks Ridiculous back with another video, and I hope you all had a great holiday and a great New Year's. I know I did. And as we enter 2024, we are less than 30 days away from the release of Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. And if you've been watching my channel from back in the Marvel's Avengers days, you will know that I will be hardlining right into the endgame, min-maxing builds, and kind of showing you guys everything I learn along the way to help you out get to that point as well. So if that's something you see yourself doing when this game comes out, definitely drop a like on the video, drop a sub to the channel, and then let me know down in the comments what character you plan on maining when the game does drop. So I wanted to throw this video together as a little bit of a recap of everything we know so far. We have learned a lot just from some of the recent dev talks and other info and trailers we've got a good amount of info on kind of how gear works, how vendors work, and really what prep you need to understand in terms of combat to really get ready for the hardest content in the game as soon as it launches. Now, we do have one more developer video coming that will focus on endgame and kind of post-launch content, but I feel that'll be big enough kind of for its own video. So I wanted to make this one to kind of focus on everything we know up until now. Now, the first thing I want to bring up is this gear screen that you're looking at here with King Shark, and kind of go over what we know and what we kind of are going to have to speculate on. Now, every character does get two firearm options, okay, but each character is only limited to 3 different type of weapons. So you'll see King Shark in this case has an LMG and an assault rifle there, right, in firearm 1 and 2. So King Shark, can use shotguns, LMGs, and assault rifles. Harley can use pistols, SMGs, and LMGs. Captain Boomerang can use sniper rifles, SMGs, and shotguns. And then Deadshot can use sniper rifles, assault rifles, and pistols. So each weapon archetype is either geared towards close range, more mid-range, or very long ranges. And then each character's kind of combo of 3 gives them a little bit of coverage across both, some kind of ranging. You know, you'll notice Deadshot doesn't really have a close range option. Harley doesn't really have a long range option, but they cover a little bit of like short to mid or mid to long. So you're going to want to mix and match your 2 gun combos in order to kind of find the best kind of sweet spot for your character to compete at several different ranges. Now, you can swap loot between characters that can use it, and that'll include the firearms that are shared across multiple characters, as well as all your grenade mods and all your shield mods. Traversal and neck bomb mods, we don't know. It's possible that you can share those between characters, but TBD. Now, shield and grenade mods will probably work very similar to how they do in a game like Borderlands, for example, where augmenting your grenade, getting like a legendary grenade will have, you know, different effects than other grenades. Same thing with shields, right? Different bonuses that'll fit your playstyle. The traversal mods are not really something we've seen yet, although if I had to hazard a guess, I would say they affect 2 things. One will be your actual traversal resource. So for example, when you're flying with Deadshot, you have a limited amount of fuel, right? And that can increase through your skill tree. I imagine a traversal mod for Deadshot could increase kind of the amount of time he can stay in the air, or even something like a faster cooldown on Harley Quinn's swing mechanic, right? If that's the case, then it's possible these traversal mods cannot be transferred between characters. They may be locked to the individual character. The other thing would be bonuses to your traversal attacks. This is kind of like your pseudo ultimate. Basically, if you've seen gameplay like King Shark kind of doing that cannonball down to the ground, or Deadshot releasing those bombs from his jetpack, those are the attacks that I think will get bonuses from your traversal mod piece here. The neck bomb mod, we have not seen anything about this. I have no idea what that will be, but that very last slot in the bottom right, I feel like that has to be your vehicle slot. We did see, and I'll get to a little later in the video, Gizmo is going to be the vendor that allows for deployable vehicles to be used. I feel like this slot must determine what vehicle your character can summon. All right, now we're going to move on to the vendors. Now, we do have 4 vendors to talk about. The first one is Penguin, right? He is the arms vendor, all right? There are 4 different kind of manufacturers of guns in this game. It's Star Labs, LexCorp, Amertech, and GCPD. Now, we don't know too much about each, but again, similar to a game like Borderlands, if you played that game, you know how there's kind of different manufacturers of weapons that all kind of have traits and characteristics that are similar across their suite of weaponry. So you'll have to kind of find the manufacturer that you think works best for your character. Maybe if you get a good roll on a piece, you can kind of use that. But you're just going to have to kind of learn all four of those manufacturers and what makes them unique. But Penguin will really be the guy that I think you'll spend the most time at. He'll be the guy that you can really craft new gun bases from and upgrade your guns at. I think he'll be a very critical vendor for getting the exact weapon archetypes and upgrades that you want. Now, the other vendor that we know a lot about is Toyman, and he is really more of the re-roll guy. You can kind of see right on the bottom of my screen here, you can kind of choose from your weapons to re-roll their augments at a chance of better stats, right? And that's across firearms, melees, shield mods, traversal mods, and grenades, right? So if you kind of go back to the actual screen here, where you see your stats on your pieces, right? So in this case, on the screenshot, we're looking at King Shark's melee piece, right? Which is this epidemic legendary blade. But you'll see it's kind of got, an uncommon, a rare, and an epic trait here, and they all have different percentages, right? So my guess is that Toyman is not going to affect what the actual perks are, but rather the range of percentages in the stat that you can get. He'll kind of be more of that late game vendor, kind of that resource sink that you can really fine tune your gear and get those pieces rolled exactly the way you want them across all of your gear. All right. Now, Gizmo is our vehicle vendor. We really don't know too much about him. We haven't really seen his vendor gear screen like this. But from what we've seen about vehicles, it looks like they can be two-manned. So whoever summons the vehicle looks like to be the one who's actually driving it and kind of shooting its primary weapons. And then it looks like kind of similar to like a Halo Warthog. There's kind of a gunner seat where a secondary character can kind of get in and gun from the front there. All we really know is that it looks like pretty much all the vehicles can fly. And then they appear to have some type of self-destruct kind of launch mechanic where they can launch themselves at enemies and explode. That could happen either when the time of using them has just run out or if they've just taken too much damage and they're destroyed. Not much else is known, but depending on how frequently you can summon these vehicles and how much damage they do, I am thinking they're going to be a critical piece of combat. I don't see, a way to kind of just exclude vehicles and play without them. It seems like they're going to be part of the gameplay loop. You're going to be wanting to probably get into a vehicle every opportunity you can, assuming they're pretty powerful, which they look like they will be. So definitely don't sleep on vehicle uses, but we'll have to see what comes of them. Definitely more to it. And then the last vendor we know of is Poison Ivy, right? So she is kind of the Afflictions vendor, right? Essentially elements. Now, this can apply to weaponry, grenades, and melee, right? So both of your firearms, your melee weapon, and your grenade, all four of those can actually have some type of elemental affliction to them. And all afflictions actually have an upside and a downside to them, which is kind of interesting. And it's important to note that any one enemy can only ever have 2 afflictions on them at a single time, all right? So there are 4 different afflictions. We only know definitively about 2 of them. One of them is called Diablo Blaze. It's essentially the fire one. Sets enemies on fire and does a damage over time. The downside to it is that they cannot be shield harvested. Shield harvested, if you've played it all, it's kind of when the enemy starts glowing that light blue and then you can melee attack them for kind of an instant kill. If they are set on fire with the Diablo Blaze, the downside is they will never be shield harvestable, but they will take damage over time. So you're going to have to kind of weigh that one out. The other one we know is the frost one. It's called Deep Freeze, okay? So freezes enemies and they shatter to bullets very easily, but they're resistant to melee and they don't drop ammo when they die. That's the downside. So, probably a strong mechanic for crowd control, but maybe not something that you want to completely invest in, because if you're not dropping ammo from enemies, you can't fully invest in freezing them nonstop. You will eventually run out of ammo, right? And then the only other 2 afflictions that there looks to be like a poison one. We haven't gotten official confirmation of what that is, but it seems to be some type of spread, like a dot, like affects enemies near them over time. But that's just speculation. And then there's a lightning one, which appears to look like some type of stun, but again, just speculating. But I think it'll be very, very important to, get afflictions into your build, right? It's going to be something you're of course going to want on every piece. Mixing, matching the ones you want between both of your guns, your melee and your grenade, to really min-max and kind of get the most out of your gear. So guys, as far as actual combat in the game, there really are 3 elements in my mind that I think will go into mastering combat. And the first and foremost for me, the most important skill I think anyone can master is actually traversal. All right, I do firmly believe that mastering traversal, making it as smooth as possible to get around in this game, will actually be the steepest learning curve for any of the characters, but will provide the absolute greatest return on how good you actually are at the game and how well you perform in the end game. The second to me is actually the combo meter. So if you don't know, when you're racking up hits, you're racking up kills, you get a combo meter building up. If you get hit, you take damage, or if you go too long without a kill, the combo meter actually decreases, all right? So it'll be extremely important to any build that you're able to keep this meter as high as you can for as long as you can, because having a higher meter allows more of your character's abilities to be active, leading to more damage, more bonuses for both you and your squad, all right? This game is going to be a very fast-paced shooter. There's not going to be any of this hide and peek type combat. You're going to be in the fight. You're going to be moving around, constantly going back and forth at all times. So knowing kind of at all times what abilities your character has and doesn't have on and off, what bonuses will trigger at what combo number, and where you are in your combo meter at all times will greatly increase your efficiency at actually playing your character. All right, and then lastly for me, it's got to be your gear. Now, even though it's number 3, I certainly don't think it's not important. And when I say gear, I'm really talking about everything we've discussed so far, right? Back at the gear screen, really understanding the best way to play your character, right? So if you're thinking like a deadshot, maybe like a long range, high crit build, understanding exactly what weapons, what mods, what afflictions you really want to work with that character and kind of pairing it all together, because it will certainly be different than someone building a, let's say, a King Shark really tank, you know, in your face close up build, right? They're going to have very different weapon types, very different mods, very different afflictions that character will enjoy more often. So when the next Insider drops, we'll see a bit more about the end game and post-launch content. I will certainly be sharing my thoughts on that. I think that's going to be a video in and of itself. But for now, I hope you learned something and that you're a little more prepared to jump into the game on day one and understand what you want to focus on to really make sure your characters are getting the, you know, getting to that min-max status. But if you did learn something, go ahead and leave a like on the video. Consider subscribing if you're going to be playing Suicide Squad, especially if you're going to be interested in end game content. And let me know in the comments, you know, what you're most excited for about this game. Thanks for watching, guys. That's it for me, and I'll see you in the next one.